And I want to look at that courageous and inspiring protest in Iran that we've talked about a couple of times, where more than 100 people reportedly have been killed and thousands arrested as women lead the charge against Tehran's Shia theocracy. Typically, the clerical leadership is now blaming Israel and the US for the protests that broke out after the death of 20-year-old Mahsa Amini, who was detained by the morality police for not wearing her headscarf correctly and died in custody. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, of course justifies the brutal police response and instead of explaining his actions, has ranted about what he perceives are the great evils in the world, blaming them. I openly state that the recent riots were schemes designed by America, the fake Zionist regime in Israel, and their mercenaries inside and outside Iran, Khamenei said, apparently with a straight face. Let's discuss the latest with Michael Shoebridge from Strategic Insights Australia here in Canberra. Good to see you in the flesh, Michael. What is going to unfold next in Iran? I know I asked you that last time, but this is typical. In Iran, they blame America, the great Satan, and Israel for their own people rising against them.
Yes, well, this is the card of the autocrats, to say when their own population are protesting against them, against their violence and intimidation, and in Iran's case, economic mismanagement too, that it's everybody else's fault. Because the last thing this regime or Putin's regime in Russia can admit is their own population don't adore them. So Khamenei is now left with the choice of confronting university and high school students as well as women. And there's no way to dress that up as some kind of Zionist or US plot.
He will crush them, he will be ruthless, and the rest of the world will criticise it but won't interfere in any way. Surely that's what history tells us here. The difference, I suppose, is that increasingly we get to see what's going on.
Yes, and there's compounding weakness. So he's creating yet another generation of people against his regime. The previous generation was the 2009 set of protests. They're still around, and now he's doubling down. He's making enemies of high school and university students. This is not the path that a successful regime takes. Yes,
so the weight of numbers could be telling here. Let's hope so. I want to quickly go to a couple of other issues. The latest problems for Russia in Ukraine, success for the Ukrainian military forces, and speculation that this is exactly the sort of diabolical defeat for Russia that could push Putin towards that horrible nuclear button.
Well, Putin is finding it very hard to dress up what he's still calling a special military operation as any kind of success. What he's doing now is he's having a failing military campaign in the northeast and in the south. The Ukrainians are sustaining attacks in both areas, continued weakness in Russian logistics and command and morale, and Putin has a failed mobilisation back home. He's now got a political problem. But for him to use nuclear weapons now would be him using it in a failed vanity project.
Yeah, that's the worry. Try to get inside a mind like that, but he's losing ground now that he had won. So that shows an inherent weakness in their forces in Ukraine.
He's getting rolled back, and it'd be even more absurd for him to say, this is my moment to use nuclear weapons on what I say is Russian territory. It'd have that real whiff of, I've burnt the village to save it. There's just no rationale that makes sense for him there.
OK, up in Pyongyang, the North Koreans always looking to draw attention to themselves, firing rockets across the Sea of Japan. What should we make of all of that?
Well, this is the longest range test since 2017, but they have done long range tests before. The main effect here is to drive the US, South Korea and Japan closer together and to make a stronger case for all three of those militaries to strengthen their capabilities. That's something that Beijing will hate as much as Pyongyang wants the attention.
Thanks for that, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Michael Shoebridge there again on International Affairs.